to the Shuttlecock podcast. We're sponsored by the Vinyl Underground at 7th Heaven, offering new and used vinyl at 76th and Troost in Kansas City, Missouri. This week on the show, we have Greg Stitt. How you doing?
Doing pretty good. How you doing?
Pretty swell. And right off the bat, I see you have prepared. You have several Kansas City records sitting behind you there.
I did a little through the decades here. So you got 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, 10s, and 20s going down the line.
Oh yeah, you got it's the Bloodbirds, and I don't know the two after that, but then there's KCDIY, Hip Shot Killer, and Silicon Prairie.
Got the Micronauts, and then I got Casket Lottery, which I guess is
cool.
Close enough to punk.
Yeah, no,
Hip Shot and then Silicon.
Yeah, no, Micronauts and Casket Lottery both rock. Just did not recognize those covers right away. But as anyone listening can already tell, you are a scholar of Kansas City music. I think it's fair to say. Maybe you prefer another word, but
works with me. Yeah,
it's the one I'll use. So I usually start off with just asking, what were your first experiences with music growing up? Like, what were the first artists you were hearing and interested in?
Just in general, just like in music?
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, so my dad is like a huge Springsteen fan. He's got like a shrine for him in his basement at this point in his house where he's living now. But growing up, I would just have, Springsteen, a lot of 80s, 90s AOR on the radio, road trips and just driving around and stuff. So yeah, I would say like I have that kind of raucous upbringing, but it only kind of dictates my taste to like a certain point. It's like a foundation, but it just grew from there to eventually encompass like pretty much everything at this point.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you're very, I think you have a pretty diverse taste, and I think anyone who follows your blogging and collecting can tell that. So what part did you grow up in the Kansas City area, or did you move here later on?
I grew up in Independence, so that came with all of the things of growing up in Independence. You had your mall rock, new metal and like ICP and stuff like that, as Independence does. So that was a lot of like junior high school, like listening to music for the sake of like it being fast and heavy, but not necessarily quality, just something that has like that aggression to it. And then, when you're a kid, this was pre-internet, this was before 2001. So listening to things that whatever I could get access to at that point,
So how many ICP shows have you been to?
Zero. Unfortunately, zero.
Wow. It's an experience. You have to go to
I've heard,
at least one.
Mm-hmm.
You'll come out soaked in Fago, and
heard.
You will. I don't know. Do they? I wonder if they do consider you a juggalo for simply attending one show. In that case, if that's the case, I am a juggalo then.
Juggalo by proxy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thanks to the Granada a few years back. That was a fun time. So you kind of talk about your interest in first learning Bruce Springsteen and kind of just classic rock stuff from your dad, and then finding out about kind of louder, crazier music in your teenage years.
Yeah.
What was your first step into Kansas City's music scene in specific?
I wish I could say that I have been into like local music as long as like someone like yourself. I first got into like punk and stuff, I would say probably about I was the age of 16 or so, and it just kind of like branched out from there very quickly. But I would enjoy going to local shows and enjoying local bands. But as far as taking like I guess what's sort of become like an archivist approach to it, that's only happened like, for people who don't know me, I'm living in Austin right now and have for about 7 years. So there's almost like a distance makes the heart grow fonder sort of thing going on. Wanting to kind of keep up and support new artists that are kind of just growing now in my absence, I guess, doing what I can. But back to the question. Yeah, I mean, I guess I was about 18, 19, 20 years old, getting some, some 7-inch singles from, stuff that Jordan Carr and Justin Betterton was releasing. And it just kind of grew from there. I mean, it really started out very small and not very fanatical, just kind of listening to things that I enjoyed. And, back then it was just like mp3.com. So you get like just random poorly recorded MP3s on your computer and have no idea what to do with it from that point. But yeah, I mean, about in my early 20s, I made the mistake of getting rid of some of the stuff that I had accumulated, and I kind of regret that. But I'd say since about the age of 23, 24 and on, I'm 36 now almost in a month, it's been something that I've approached seriously and wanting to document it for posterity or whatever, what have you. So
yeah. Oh, and I appreciate that. Well, the first two local bands that I got into were Dark Ages and Kicked In. So I enjoy the fact that the music of Justin and Jordan was the entry point for me and for you, but both at fairly different times. Like, what year would you say you were getting into their bands?
For me, probably 04, maybe 05, around that time, I guess. Yeah.
That was cool. Yeah, I was fully like maybe seven years later, like in 2011, I think is when Can America Survive came out, and that was one of the first local records I knew about.
Good. Hello.
Oh, there it is. Classic. Love it. I'm having a whole Dark Ages nostalgia month. I did the article in the first issue, and then
nice. Yeah, I listened to your podcast with Shroud recently. That was pretty good.
Yeah, no, Shroud's really fun to talk to.
I mean, I've known that guy since I first started. Like, he is probably, I mean, many people I'm sure can say this, but he was one of the first people I'd ever met when I first got into like hardcore and punk. I mean, that's been half my life ago now. I was 18 years old, going to like El Torion shows, and so it's cool that like, he's still at it, and he's been great with like showing people the way and still playing in some great bands,
Yeah, and he is he? I'm trying to think. He's from the Missouri side, but is he also from Independence?
He lives in Blue Springs. I don't know.
Blue Springs, okay.
Yeah, I think it's more Blue Springs, Lee Summit. So yeah.
No, it's kind of funny. I was talking. I'm not going to name drop, but I was talking to another person involved in the Kansas City kind of DIY scene, and we were talking about, I think, Dark Ages, and Jason came up. And he's like, "Oh yeah, Jason's great because he's been around in the scene for at least like around 20 years now, maybe, and he's been straight edge the whole time, and he went to all these shows, and he's like, my friend's like, yeah, he's kind of like, he's telling me, it's like, yeah, it's great that he has all this knowledge and can tell you about these shows 20 years ago. I'm like, yeah, it's like he's the black box in the plane of Kansas City hardcore, because everyone else is partying hard and may not remember all these details.
For sure. I mean, it's definitely fuzzy. I mean, having drank for a few years, I've been sober now for a few years, at least from drinking, but you kind of things get fuzzy. That's just how it happens, unfortunately. But it comes back every now and then,
Yeah, and what I did want to ask you, okay, so if anyone is not aware, you ran a blog called Riot on the Plaza from 2011 to 15, is that right?
Yeah, I mean, it's still out there. I guess I could bring it back whenever I want, but yeah.
And that's named for a Tanqueray song.
Yep.
That was a Kansas City punk band from the '90s and aughts.
Yeah, early 2000s. Yeah.
Yeah. What made you pick that song to name the blog after? Is that an important band for you?
I mean, they're a great band. It's a great song, great band, local staple for that era for sure. It influenced me a lot. I think I remember writing an article about them for my high school newspaper. Like, I hope it can't be found. I'm sure it's complete trash, but 2002, I think I wrote about "And So I Abide." But yeah, I mean, they've been a band that's been in my life for a long time, and also I kind of just wanted something that would be a reference to Kansas City without, but also, you know, something that's tied into music. I'm a big fan of any form of something that could be like maybe pun oriented, something that's like referencing multiple things at once and tied together. I'm kind of an idiot like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, that works for me, and I liked it, and it was what it was.
Oh yeah. And so I'm kind of curious because I could probably do this like with my own blog and stuff like that, but I was kind of curious who your favorite kind of local bands to cover during the time you're doing the blog. Like who would you consider like Riot on the Plaza staples? Like who are you always excited to write about?
Oh man, I feel like it was just such a. I feel like the blog itself, the usage that I had was just, it fluctuated so much during that time. I can't say like I consistently covered anybody in particular for a long period of time, but I probably mentioned like Hip Shot Killer and Revolvers a lot. You know, I love the Revolvers. For anybody that doesn't know me, I am dead set on getting their CD issued on vinyl at some point. Just throwing that out in the universe. But yeah, definitely them. I mean, some other people that I kind of hung around with, Dead Girls, Ultimate Fake Book, that kind of camp, you know, just kind of some more on the poppy end of like power pop rock stuff. I couldn't say anybody else who would have gotten mentioned more than them, just because it was such like a, some things would concentrate on things that were happening at that moment with like show reviews of like, you know, maybe like a Shy Boys first show or whatever, or and then half of it would be like, oh, I'm going to talk about this band that broke up 15 years ago that I just want to tell people about, you know. So yeah, it was just kind of just all over the place. However, I felt like writing about stuff that day, I guess.
Yeah, no, I was reading through like I'd seen like posts here and there, like I would like search Kansas City band and a blog post would pop up, but I did kind of like dig through the whole blog archive this past week, and I appreciate how thorough you are in how you write about these bands, because like pretty much whenever a band is mentioned, you'll instantly like in parentheses like list out like all these other projects they've been involved with, and that's probably like between that and like your Discogs work, it's like these are probably, you know, some of the only like written kind of documents like connecting all of these different bands and stuff, and that's something I appreciate as a reader and someone interested in the scene.
Thanks. Yeah, I mean, that's definitely the main reason I do it, is just for it to be out there, for it to be used. You know, I want the information to be as concise and complete as possible. So I've for a long time I've been very interested in just kind of connecting artist family trees of these people worked together in this project and this one, and then they went off and did this and so on. You know, you've seen it, but the little like nerd talk section of my posts, I always enjoyed doing that. Just kind of, that's where I could just do like a spiel of like, oh, this is all the stuff that they've done over the years, and you know, just I guess kind of comes down to like, if you're looking for more things that these people have done, Bob's your uncle. There you go. You got a whole list of things to check out.
Yeah, no, and it's funny. I've you know, as you know, I've found myself doing a good bit of Discogs cataloging of newer Kansas City bands and figuring out all the members and all of their respective projects. So there must be, I guess it's just something similar in our brains that like compels us to like want to get in written terms all of these like different connections, and it's just a fun thing for me to think about, like
Yeah.
yeah, just like this guy was in this band with this other guy, and so therefore this band is like cousins with this. Yeah, you said like a family tree type thing. So is that something you've uh always kind of had in your music interest, or and do you kind of do that with other interests you have?
I'd say Discogs definitely helped kind of mold that part of my brain, but it definitely existed before that. I think it's it comes to like both being like I am fine with doing like a data entry. That's part of my full-time job is like entering live show listings for the publication I work for. So it's just like data entry. So part of that is just like brain automation, and then to be able to combine filling out this text history of what's happened or what is happening with like this kind of hyper local environment of Kansas City, people that you may or may not know, may or may not still be alive, but like a documentation of what has been done. I think it's something that kind of just like is, I never feel like it's complete, and that's kind of why I like it. Like there's always pieces that you can add on to that puzzle and just keep it going and going and going until it's this massive connection of people who are tangentially related in music, across multiple genres and cities and such.
Yeah, no, I love that. And yeah, you mentioned you moved to Austin about 7 years ago, and you've been working at the Austin Chronicle, which is that they're kind of just the alt
Yeah.
magazine paper?
Yeah, just all weekly. So yeah, I've been there for about 4.5 years now. So just been working at home for the last year though.
Yeah. And what initially led you to decide on moving down there? Was it just like a cool job you really wanted, or did you want like a big change of scenery?
Well, I mean, the reason for the move was really due to my partner. She got a job down here. We moved from KC to Dallas for about 8 months, and then from Dallas to Austin. We've been here for 7 years at this point, I think, or at least in Texas for 7 years. So we moved down here for her employment. I ended up working in a few spots, pet shop, and I ended up getting on at the Chronicle, just as a proofreader, which I still am for them, but I'm kind of I'm just like the set of eyes that they keep on hand to make sure that there's no mistakes, I guess, and things that go to print. So I'm, pretty, I guess, comfortable with that title, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And you mentioned that a part of your job was like entering events and keeping track of all the clubs and venues and stuff. So what I'm sure a lot has changed for that position in the last year. What were you doing different now that during the pandemic?
I have been, so before the pandemic, before times, we'll call it, I would keep a Google spreadsheet that I would look at every week. That was about 3 pages long, 3 columns each, some few hundred venues. Not venues per se, but like places that would hold live music regularly, which was a shit ton of places. There was a lot of places that would have like, singer-songwriter nights or what have you. Pandemic hit, like before that, okay, so I would be entering in like 2 weeks worth of shows, which would end up being roughly 6 or 7 pages in print. Pandemic hit, that all dropped off. I've been working from home. I've just been kind of entering 1 week at a time since then, because things have still been so weird. Some things still get canceled last minute, so, but now the whole entire city is like kind of ramping back up. There's some larger venues on like Red River, like Stubbs and Mohawk, that are going to be opening up this month. So it's kind of like getting back to like a closer, not quite a business as usual, but there's a lot of hesitant celebration going on that's been like kind of ticking up for the last like few weeks, and it's just, I feel like it's going to be just, it's more and more shows, more and more venues. There's brand new venues that are opening, which is crazy, but yeah, it's just, it never stops. I mean, there's always stuff happening everywhere down here.
Yeah. So has some of your have you ended up at a lot of South by Southwest stuff, either for work or just your own enjoyment over the years?
A handful. It's easier said than done. I mean, it's I can definitely get out and go to it, but it's just kind of crowds and the people and stuff. It's not always easy to get out there and get in the middle of a crowd. This was before times again, but hoping I can get out and see some stuff, you know, for the duration that I'm still here, which who knows how long that will be, you know. But
yeah. So, yeah, I guess you talked about earlier on that, you know, you do end up missing Kansas City scene, and, you know, absence makes the heart grow fonder. And so I'm curious, like, maybe besides even a particular band or artist, like what do you miss maybe most about Kansas City's music scene, or just Kansas City in general, or there's just like certain feelings of being in Kansas City that you specifically miss, or like different venues or shops, or what is it?
it's kind of, it's hard to put a concise wording on it. To say it's a feeling is probably the easiest way to put it. It's because it's home, you know.
Yep.
The place you grew up at, the place that you started seeing bands, a place where you like made all your friends at shows and explored and found new bands to get into, or artists or types of music or whatever. It just imprints on you, and that never really goes away. So I feel like there's always going to be that kind of part in the back of my mind where it's like, not saying that Kansas City is like better than, it's just that it's in some ways it's like best for me, you know, for like, it's got things that like really just like you mesh with it well, and not every place that you go has that, you know.
Yeah. So
plus like all the stores are great. I mean, I've only been to some of the more recent ones a handful of times. I mean, I've been to Sister Anne's once, but that place is great. Mills, I've loved since they've opened. You know, Love Garden is amazing. I love those people. Hell, Revolution's great. You know, it's, the city's come a long way since like when I first moved out to downtown, about, I think it was about 06 or something. It was when that like wave hit where like all the record stores closed that were down there. So it's cool that like it's kind of bounced back, and then some. That like now KC really has more proper record stores probably than like Austin, which is pretty cool.
Oh yeah, is there anywhere that you haven't been when you've come back to visit that you're excited to see?
I don't think so. I mean, I've been to Brothers, and I've been to, there's a little place up on up in Northtown that's on, I think, Armor, that
FM.
I've been to. Yeah. Yeah, it's hard to keep track of what's open these days. I mean, like I'm still, it feels to me like Earwax just closed down like a year ago when it's been like 8 or 9 years. So it's everything's kind of transient as far as the feelings around that goes. But I think I've been to all the record stores that exist right now, but if there are some that I've not been to, I definitely plan on hitting them up when I get the chance.
Nice. Yeah. So I guess I wanted to talk a little bit about your collection of Kansas City music. You've alluded to that. When specifically did you kind of lay it out on your Discogs profile page, the fact that you are essentially trying to collect as much Kansas City area music as you can. When did you decide that was going to be a goal for you?
It kind of organically grew, I would say. Like when I lived in Oklahoma City for about a year and a half, like '08 to the end of '09. When I came back, I kind of had, the same thing sort of happened. Like you move away from KC and you're like, oh yeah, I missed my home. So I came back and kind of got a little like rabid interest in what was going on and what I had missed. So like I would try to pick up the slack and or make up for lost time more or less, and try to grab a lot of things that I had missed out on or never got around to getting or whatnot. So being a serious, I'll say like, I guess a local music archivist has only been like in the last decade or so, I guess. But it's kind of grown exponentially year by year since then. I mean, now you can see like I've got a bunch of cassette tapes up here, a tower of tapes, but that only started probably in the last few years. I mean, I had maybe 30 tapes 5 years ago, but now it's a few hundred, and the majority of them are KC artists. So
Your Discogs collection is around 4,000. How much would you say of that is Kansas City area stuff?
I don't know if I could put a number on. I probably should do the research into that and find out, because that's all the vinyl, all the tapes, all the CDs that I have. Yeah. Which I would say maybe we're looking at 35-40% being KC. Might be a little generous, but it's probably pretty close to the actual number of 4,000. I guess that would be, I don't know, we're looking at maybe close to 1,000 things. Well, I might be undershooting it actually, because like I've got that Instagram page that I'm sure we'll talk about here in a bit, the Analog KC. I think it's up to like 850 things on there now, and I've got more tapes and records to go, and then CDs I've got a few hundred that I've posted, and still a few stacks to go. So yeah, I don't know, 13, 14, 1,500 things maybe, I don't know.
Oh,
it's a lot.
Yeah. No, yeah, tell me about you have Analog KC on Instagram, but also Compact KC, one being tapes and vinyl, the other being CDs.
Yeah, compacted KC. I started about a year or two after I did Analog KC, so there's a lot less things on there, but kind of just saw that as like a fun kind of like need that hadn't been met by anybody. So I was like, hey, why not? I'll just start throwing some pictures on there, and maybe some people will get a little jog down memory lane or what have you, but it seems to be pretty appreciated, which is cool. I'm just doing it for fun, so it's just on there for people to know what's out there. I guess somebody could use it as a reference if they wanted to. Didn't really have any plans to start it other than that, but it has helped me to like connect with a few people that have gotten me some CDs and records and things that I was missing, so I appreciate that aspect of it for sure.
Yeah, I'm sure it's been fun to follow those. And I guess one question I had is there maybe one or a few like holy grails of like Kansas City physical music that you're very much hoping to find somewhere?
Yes, I need to take a second to think about it though. Are we good?
Oh, sorry, your audio cut out for a sec.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, my computer's kind of not great with this. I don't know if I could say for sure exactly what I'm looking for, but there's like a Bubble Boys demo cassette that was out there. I think it was like 94 or something. It came out, I think, before their 7-inch that they did. That's something that I would love to be able to get. A lot of these things also exist at the MAR archives and UMKC, which hopefully I can set up a appointment at some time to go there and just check everything out and just nerd out about it. But I don't know. Yeah, I'm kind of drawing a blank, I guess, since I'm on the spot. But yeah, there's definitely things out there, and then there's whoever wants to like look up my Discogs page. I guess my username is Gregory Stitt, Stitt, and I have a lot of things that are listed on there that don't actually exist on Discogs. a lot of things that have just kind of slipped through my fingers, or stuff I've never come across. So like if you are a person who is hanging on to a lot of local music and want to reach out about setting something up, a trade or whatever, do that. That's all I gotta say about that. But yeah, I mean, the Instagram pages are they're fun. I kind of started doing them a little more like every day, and I kind of just do them when I have the time at this point. Sometimes I get busy with work, and so I'll go a few weeks without posting anything, but I've kind of always got like a backlog on my phone, eating up my memory of stuff to post.
So the Bubble Boys, they were a 90s kind of like power pop punk band from Lawrence.
Yeah, pop punk for sure. They're kind of like, I don't know, they are Lookout Records type pop punk, I'd say, energetic, just good, kind of whatever you think of with 90s punk rock bands that would have played with like the Mr. T Experience or whatever. Yeah, good stuff.
Yeah, I think
and those guys, they played the odd reunion every now and then, but there are, I think last I heard, plans to finally issue on, I think vinyl maybe, the album they recorded back in like 98 or something and never released. So it's still out there, and some of the songs are even out there streaming, but that entire album of like 18 some odd songs is still unreleased, which hopefully KC can get that at some point, because it's pretty good. It's a good album.
No, yeah, I've definitely listened to one release of theirs. I need to get around to checking out the rest of them. I'm guessing they were a little before your time, but did you see any of like the reunion shows they've done?
Yes, I saw their reunion they did at the Record Bar, probably 2012 or 13, I'd say, which was good. It was a small crowd. Probably should have gone to the Lawrence set because they had a different set list for each show, and that was the one where they played like Tenth of Mass and these other like great songs that kind of have, I don't know, a lot of good songs that like just imprinted on my memory. But most of the songs that like I like the most are the ones that they played at the Replay Lounge and not the Record Bar set. But what are you gonna do? What are you gonna
do? No, yeah, and you mentioned the Mar Sound Archive at UMKC, and that I've been following all of their social media for a few years now, and have also not stopped by before to check it out. But it seems like it's probably a pretty cool collection they have, and it's. Do you know if it's like just like they'll do they take like any recording that they're given and kind of just keep it, or are they kind of focused in their collection?
I'm not the best person to answer that, but I know that they've definitely taken all sorts of collections. Like I've heard some stories of like just large collections that people who maybe passed away, all their stuff got dropped off there. But yeah, I don't know exactly the parameters of like their requests or requirements or whatever. I just know that they have a lot of stuff, and a lot of it's probably maybe the last copy in existence they might have in their collection, for all I know. So there's a lot of stuff there that's probably really valuable to the history of KC music.
Yeah, no, I think I've seen at least a post or two from their collection about. I'm sure they do have like some like pretty rare like early Kansas City jazz recordings. I'm sure that's something they probably kind of end up specializing in. So yeah, I'd love to dig through that at some point.
For sure.
So yeah, I guess that might bring us to one of your most recent projects that you've been working on. You recently launched a Bandcamp page called the KC Punk Archive, and so far you have, is it maybe like around 5 to 10 Kansas City punk releases from it's mostly the 90s and 2000s that weren't previously on Bandcamp or streaming?
Man, I'm sorry. I just lost that entire part of it because my my connection kind of dropped out. So most of what you just did there.
Sorry.
I could see you talking, but I couldn't hear anything. So sorry about that.
No, yeah. So on the KC Punk Archive Bandcamp page, you have so far like 5 to 10 ish releases, and it's all Kansas City punk records and stuff from the 90s and 2000s so far?
Yeah. I think it's 12 or 14 maybe things to be exact, with like about maybe 20 or 30 things like in the hop or stuff that I'm waiting on just to hear back from the artists that were involved with it for their go ahead to just like post it up. But yeah, it's I guess I started with the intention of making it kind of 80s 90s into like mid 2000s, like a pre-Bandcamp sort of documentation of whatever was going on. It's mostly been more of like a 94 to like 2004, like that decade more specifically lately, just because I'm gonna have some issues with like ripping some records I have that I won't be able to really address for a little bit, and also had some records, like records that Justin and Jordan released that I had made a rip of like a decade ago that I went back and reviewed just to see if they were worth putting them on there. And I don't even know why I ever like put those out there, because they're complete trash with like pops and skips and all that. So those are like basically unusable as far as worth putting up the stream. But I do have the KC DIY compilation I've got back here. I've got a pretty good clean rip of that, and so I've gotten to go ahead to put that up. So probably that will be up in the next few days, and hopefully from there I can get some more, clean rips, stuff that's highest quality if possible to pass on to whoever wants it.
Yeah. And it is all stuff that wasn't previously on Bandcamp or streaming?
For the most part. I mean, the Olsen Terror record is on there. They've got their own Bandcamp page, but yeah, Justin gave me the kind of blessing to put more or less everything that he's been involved with up there. So I appreciate that. That's just kind of, I guess, one of the things. There's a few things that I might be putting up in the future that are also currently on Bandcamp, but it's just, it's, instead of like linking to another band's page, I would be nice to be able to like have everything in one spot to just say, this is all here, and then just for the ease of access, I guess.
Yeah. So yeah, no, you've been kind of working on your personal Kansas City collection over the last 5-10 years. And what made you decide that this was the time to kind of start giving it back to the public and making some of your collection available?
Kind of the same thing as with like the Instagram pages. It was kind of there was nobody that had done anything like that yet, so I figured, why not me? I've got access to some of the technology that is needed to make a good page, and I've reached out to some other people that do regional archives and just kind of get little tips and tricks here and there. But yeah, just it's something that I thought would be interesting and a learning kind of database for people that maybe are just getting into local music or just have dropped out of it long ago and just want to hear some stuff that they maybe were involved with 20 years ago, 25 years ago, which there's been a few people that have commented about like how long it's been since they've heard certain things, which is, it's cool.
Yeah. What are some of these regional projects that you're kind of looking at?
As far as what now?
What are some of those like regional archive projects that you're like looking to and checking
like
with?
Inspiration?
Yep.
There's there's one in Chicago that I'm very impressed with. It's called DuPage County Hardcore. It's on Bandcamp. I think last I checked, they've got like 500 releases on there. It's branched out more than just punk and hardcore. I think they've got like some rap and some alternative, but it's more 90s and 2000s. But this guy who has drummed for a bunch of Chicago hardcore bands, Dave Dave Hoffa is what he goes by. He started it up, and so I reached out to him. He's a cool guy, so he's got some good advice on just how to keep things interesting, I guess.
Nice.
Sorry.
Could you move the mic off your shoulder? Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, I was just making a noise, but
Gotcha.
No, yeah. So what releases that you've put back up are you most excited about so far?
The ones that are available, I mean, the Tanqueray's Dirty Voices is definitely the one that's still, even though it was the very first one that went up, it's still one of the most popular ones, which I guess I didn't really realize how kind of sought after, I guess you could say, that release was. And so there's that one for sure, is the one that whenever I check like the stats on it just to see like what people have been interested in listening to or downloading, that's pretty much always the top one. There's a Glitter Kicks record on there that I put up a while back, that's like the first digital appearance that album's ever had. And so like I had, the approval of Tawny Freeland with that and was talking with her. And so she was pretty excited, and everyone else who used to listen to that band, I guess, was very excited as well. So that's been another one that a lot of people have come back to listen to, and I'm happy to be able to provide that venue that people can use,
Yeah. And you mentioned that some of Justin's other bands are going to be up there soon. Is there anything you want to tease that the people like releases you have coming up that are going to get posted?
I mean, eventually Big Brown Sharks, the majority of their discography is going to be up there. So you've got your, that whole era of KC DIY with you've got, I think, Anxiety Attack might have actually been Cassette Kill, now that I'm saying out loud. The Alert Alert, Crapcore. There was the New Morning Changing Weather, Get Wild 5, a lot of stuff like that. What's up?
Is John Brown's Kids, was that one of the releases? Short Bus?
There might have, I don't think so. There was a Short Bus Kids discography CDR that I think might have been like involved sort of with one of those releases, but the 7-inch I think was just a self-release thing, the 7-inch split, the Kids split.
Yeah.
That's a good one. That's the one that I definitely want to get up there at some point. I just need to get a good quality rip of it. And Mike Tooley, a lot of things that he's been involved with over the years, there's definitely some stuff I want to get up there. He's been, of course, involved with many things. As calling back to the podcast with Jason Trout, he also commented on how involved Tooley's been in local music for 25 years at this point.
Yeah, no, I don't know if I've ever had like a full conversation with Mike, but yeah, I'm aware he's been around and involved for quite a while now, and I'm a fan of a lot of the releases he's worked on, and I've seen that he's been working on a new project of his own, this kind of multimedia kind of audio video storytelling thing. So I'm excited to see where that goes, and hopefully I can get him on the podcast sometime soon.
For sure. I would definitely want to hear some stories that he has, which, just shout out real quick to how amazing Bloodbirds were. They're not going to be like on the KC Punk Archive just because they're like a 2010s band, but that record they released was one of the best things that's come out in KC. Like, I don't know, more or less call it punk, but it was kind of like a, I don't know, psychedelic desert punk.
Yeah.
Great stuff. And then of course Anna moved out to, I think, LA after that, and so there goes the band.
Oh yeah, but all of Anna's solo stuff has been great too, and I definitely haven't I've listened to several multiple releases from Bloodbirds, but I don't think I think I have the whole discography MP3, but I do need to just spend some more time with that.
I'm looking for it. I think I've got it right here. Psychic Surgery is what it's called. It's this guy right here. So great album. Highly recommend it. It's definitely worth like repeat listens. It's a fantastic record.
Are there any I'm curious, like you're doing these kind of digital, like, basically they're digital reissues, they're making this archive public on Bandcamp. Do you have any like larger or just additional kind of archival projects that you want to do in the future? Nothing
that I probably could mention at the moment, but there's always things that I'm trying to get involved with. And I'm not going to be in Austin forever. I'm eventually going to be back in KC, so that's definitely going to make it a lot easier to be involved and stay involved with things. So when that eventually happens, I do plan on probably getting involved with some more archival related kind of things, I guess. Maybe a label, maybe, who knows. It's going to be probably a few years on the line, but yeah, there's definitely more things to do for sure.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that you'll be back and we can bump into each other at a show at some point. I look forward to that. Is there, I guess I want to ask, I'm sure you, when you come back to visit, you end up seeing a show or two and catching up a little bit, but like, is there any like one or two bands that you really wish you could see on a regular basis, or just see for the first time, that have been active since you left?
Yes. I'm really digging True Lions. I mean, I know not, to get off the punk hardcore train here, True Lions is, I've watched, her kind of grow that project over the last year, and it's to have that full length that just was released. It's one of, I think, the best things I've heard come out of KC this year. The year is young, but it's a great release. I would definitely want to go to more. I'm at this point I would be like the old guy at the hardcore show, but I definitely want to go to like more dirty basement shows whenever the opportunity presents itself, like Bummer and stuff like that. The best thing I saw when I came home one year was I was able to the best one for sure was a Revolvers reunion that I saw. I think it was at Davies New Year's Eve 2015, maybe 2014, because I was about to turn 30 the next year. Fantastic. That was like everything I wanted it to be. Drank too much beer, but was yelling and screaming to every single word of every single song, and it was a great night. The next best one I saw was a few years ago. I was home for, I think it was maybe in the fall at some point, and I saw part of the Lotus Pool 25th anniversary show at the Replay, so I got to see Panel Donor, which was amazing. I've never got a chance to see them when they were still around. That was great. It was loud as hell. Drummer is just an absolute monster. I mean, I can't think of the guy's name at the moment, but he's, I think, living in New York these days and plays in the Psychic Paramount. But great technical drummer, great set. It's a good time.
Oh, I've been meaning to check out Panel Donor for a while, and I'm not super well versed in some of the Lotus Pool discography, though. I wrote about the Zoom reissue that happened a couple years ago.
If you like Zoom, especially Helium Octopede, then you'd probably dig Panel Donor. They're kind of in the same boat. They shared members. They had that whole Panel Donor and Zoom and Major Games and Everest and a lot of bands that they all kind of share the same members of like the kind of 8th Street tap room sort of crowd, But
I did see Major Games open for one of the 2 times I saw Your Friend.
Nice.
The Liberty Hall release show for Gumption. That was pretty cool. And so I'm sure because Zoom played one of those Lotus Pool anniversary shows, right? Did you end up seeing them?
They did, but I didn't get to see them that time. I did get to see them. I think it was maybe, it was probably 2011 or 12. Might have even been 2010. They played just a quick, because I think the singer guitarist, I think he's living in Chicago these days. So he came back. They played a Lawrence show, which I didn't make it out to, but they did play at the Cowtown Ballroom, which didn't have the best sound, but it was, free daytime show I could just walk into and watch. And so that was cool. They played, I think, they played Helium Octopede more or less front to back, which what more could you ask for? It was a great set.
Yeah, no, that's great. Great record. And I meant to ask earlier when you mentioned them, but I don't think I'd even heard of the Revolvers until I was looking through your blog this week. What are they all about?
They're a melodic punk band, lots of songs about girls, but there's also sort of like a little bit of a twang to them. They've got the heart of a country band, but they play just good melodic, verging on pop punk, but not fully like a Bubble Boys kind of pop punk. It's just like a good melodic punk, and really good, high energy, good vocals, good lyrics, kind of stuff that you just throw on the car when you're just driving around like Midtown, Westport, whatever. It's just a great time capsule of like 1999 kind of era of KC, you know. But one of my favorite releases. I can't say exactly why or what my affinity for it is. It's just a great damn album, and everyone involved with it is super talented. You know, Wagner's still playing bass for a bunch of bands. Mike Alexander's playing for a bunch of bands. Justin doesn't do much anymore, but then John Paul, Buddy Lush, the drummer, still plays in his, you know, amount of bands as well. So a lot of dudes that have been involved with KC music for going on 30 years at this point. It's just great little release. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Plus the 2 7-inches that came before it.
No, and you said you caught them at Davies Uptown, and I of course, a lot of people, it got overshadowed by the pandemic, but there was that big fire there, and they've been open since then. And I don't know if I've heard or read anything about what they might plan to do after this, if they plan to open there again or elsewhere, or do you know anything about them?
I, you know, just based on the things that I've seen, you know, I'm part of a few different Facebook groups. One of them's like called Ramble On. It's just like a bunch of people that used to go to shows at Davies. There's still plans to reopen as far as I know. They've done some work on the bar and the, you know, stage area. I couldn't tell you what the status of it is right now, but I think that they're still planning on reopening it as a live music venue whenever they have the chance, I guess, which is good. I mean, it's been a staple of that part of Midtown for decades, so I hope it lives on forever.
Yeah, that'd be history lost otherwise.
Yep.
It's where I both saw very early on in my time show going. I saw MDC with Subhumans and At Your Throat, and that was a really fun show. Nice. There's like a really hilarious picture. I was like 14 or 15, and I'm like, my dad brought me to the show, and I had him take my picture with Dick Lucas from Subhumans, and he just looks very extremely uninterested, and I'm just like, check it out, that's Dick Lucas. So that was fun. And that's also where I saw Warrior Kids with Dark Ages one time.
Oh right, yeah, cool.
That was a cool show too. Like getting to see this like old French oi band was kind of a rare thing. That was cool.
Nice. Yeah, Davies, they've always been a weird bag, that venue. I mean, they've had some amazing punk and hardcore shows, and they've got like, you know, country and rockabilly, and you know, they were involved with grunge way back when, and I've seen definitely a strange handful of shows there. I mean, I saw Chuck Prophet with the Grizzly Hand. I went to that show with my dad and ended up like doing a review of it, and that was a great show. And then I saw that Revolvers reunion show had a weird lineup on it. I think it was like Chris Mack and the Guilty Birds, I think it was who he was playing with at the time. And then Dirtatus King opened up, which was, I think it was Dirtatus King. I'm pretty sure they were on it. I might be wrong. It might be another show I'm thinking of. And then Smash the State, maybe, I think might have been the very opener. But there's Dirtatus King, of course, is like abrasive, heavy stuff. And then the rest of the show is kind of just like tapers off into this sort of more melodic, chill vibe, I guess, except for Revolvers. I guess everyone was kind of going wild. T-shirts around the heads, you know.
No, yeah, Dirtatus King. They were like just kind of winding down as a band when I was first going to shows, and I'd listened to I think both of their tapes, you know, a few times each. But that is a band I do need to revisit, and because I remember enjoying it when I heard them, but I never ended up seeing them. But it is funny that I think it's one of the Matt, I think Matt Judge was in that band, and
that sounds right,
yeah, his younger brother Paul is like this kind of like he's a hip hop producer and living in Los Angeles, and that was like one of my first pitch articles was writing about that, and that was kind of a fun kind of unknown connection that I not just kind of a weird connection to find that I enjoyed getting to
That's cool.
find out about.
When was that? When did you write that? You've been
Uh,
with the pitch for a minute, right?
yeah, it's been like 4 years now. So it's probably 3 or 4 years ago I wrote that.
Right on. Yeah. Yeah, Matt. I mean, of course, he's been involved with tons of bands over the years. I think he was involved with at least one or two bands on that KC DIY comp. I think the Hospital, I want to say, which was one of the standout tracks. They only had one song. There was like 8 bands on the compilation. 7 of them had one song on either side, and then there was just the Hospital, who had one song and one song only. But it was one of the best songs on the compilation. It was this kind of weird sort of I don't know, like maybe like a Song of Zarathustra, sort of like had this kind of organ work. I think Jacob Kruger was in the band as well, but really good, like kind of, I don't know, it was such a like a I don't want to say time capsule over and over again, but like that kind of era of like black turtleneck sort of keyboard mop top warrior kind of stuff, like the International Noise Conspiracy sort of was winding down at that point, but yeah, not dissimilar to that sort of stuff, I guess, but good song.
No, yeah, I've listened to the KCDIY comp at least once or twice, but I don't remember off top what the Hospital sounded like. But so I need to check that out again. But also, I don't think I've listened. I think I've downloaded but not listened to the release from Culture Camp, which was I think the other band that he was in. So
like I mentioned, the KCDIY comp, I should have that up on the Bandcamp. I think the rip that I have is of good enough quality. I might decide later to refresh it with something. But Culture Camp, I've got one other album. I'm hoping I can put that one up at some point on the Bandcamp page, because that's definitely one that just fell by the wayside. I think like there's maybe a dozen people who probably still have that CD out. And then Dish, there were some other bands that they all kind of played shows together and shared members. That whole era of like early 2000s DIY stuff, but
word. I think that's most of what I wanted to get to. I guess we could just wrap up by having you tell people where they can find the Punk Archive, the KC Punk Archive, and then also all of your social media and where people can find you and your work.
Cool. So the KC Punk Archive is it's on Bandcamp, just kcpunkarchive.bandcamp.com. Hoping to just keep that growing over the next few years, just as I can get things quality ripped. So just keep an eye on that, because it will have things added to it regularly. Instagram, the Analog KC is just at Analog KC. It's records and tape photos posted semi-regularly. And then Compacted KC is just compact discs and CDRs from their existence of KC music. And those are also posted kind of semi-regularly. I'm on social media. I mean, my username across everything is just Gregory Stitt. So people, if they want to find me or reach out or ask me a question or whatever, they can do that. My email address, I guess the best one to reach would be, I've just created a kcpunkarchive@gmail.com. So if anybody has any questions or wants to offer up anything for the archive, definitely reach out. I'm just looking for a good kind of, Bandcamp has these weird requirements, like the songs have to be lossless and the photo covers have to be like 1500 by 1500 pixels. So they have these weird kind of like requirements for things to be up, but like once you get past that, it's a breeze. You just get it uploaded and it's just like the data entry. But I've been telling everybody this, but any kind of punk adjacent band that's been active in KC at any point really up to like 2010 or so, I'm interested in putting your stuff up there, like no questions asked. So it's an inclusive archive, so definitely reach out.
Awesome. Well, thank you for all of your hard work archiving Kansas City music, but also for joining me on the show today. It was a lot of fun. Finally, I mean, I know we just messaged on social media on and off the last handful of years, but I'm glad we got to really chat about it for a minute.
Yeah, for sure, man. It's good to talk with somebody about music. I mean, it's been so long since I've had I guess this is as close to a face-to-face conversation as I've had about music, but it's been fun. Hopefully
Yeah.
I don't sound like too much of an idiot.
Oh, not at all. Yeah, and people can follow at Shuttlecock Mag on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Shuttlecockmusic.com is the website. Shuttlecockmag.bigcartel.com is the web store. There will be new T-shirts coming soon. There are photozines, buttons, and the second issue of the monthly print magazine will be available sometime in May. And make sure to subscribe wherever you're listening or watching this. And yeah, thank you. Thanks again for being on the show, Greg. And we'll see everyone next time.
Hell yeah, man.